So there's a rule I like to have on professional work, and that's to never shoot wide open. Obviously, rules are meant to be broken, but as a rule, as a general guideline, I never shoot wide open on professional work, and that's because lenses are not their sharpest wide open. I'll say that again. Lenses are not their sharpest wide open. Now, I say that again because you still have people who are like, no, not my lens. My lens is special. My lens is tack sharp wide open. No, it's not. It gets sharper if you stop down a little bit. Let's say your lens is a 1.2 and it's the sharpest lens. It's so good at 1.2. It will be sharper at 1.8, at f2, at 2.8, f4, 5.6, f8, etc., etc., etc. But once you get to a certain point, if it's closed down too much, then it's not sharp either. So f22, f16, stay away from that stuff too. So what I like to do is I shoot just a little bit under wide open. So if it's a lens that's 1.8, maybe I'll shoot at 2.8. If it's a lens that's 1.2, maybe I'll shoot at f2. It just depends on the lens. And yes, some lenses are sharper than other lenses, but wide open, it is not going to be the sharpest. And I know everyone loves shallow depth of field, but you probably want your subject in focus. And if it's professional work, you want it as sharp as it can be. Trust me on this. You don't want someone coming back and say, hey, why does it look like they're like ghosting and fuzzy? You don't want that. Do that effect in post-production if that's what the client wants, but you don't want to have to try and fix that because you probably can't. That still isn't enough for some people. They still say, well, I like to shoot wide open because it's a stylistic choice and I really like the look of the shallow depth of field and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. Save it for your personal work, but I wouldn't recommend it for client professional work because, again, you're going to have problems. And you're not going to be happy. Well, maybe you are happy, but that means you're probably not looking at it critically enough. Yes, you don't need to be a pixel peeper to zoom in all the way, but you can still look at something at normal size and see that something is sharper when you stop down. Now, I would caution against stopping down too much because there is a certain point where too much is in focus and maybe it is too sharp. No, that's not a thing. That would be sharpening. I don't think I've ever seen a lens that's too sharp minus, camera sharpening and stuff like that. Some people like to say that like a lens is really clinical. I think if it is, you can fix that with camera settings, with post-production, etc. If you have the detail, you can always take it away, but you can't ever add it back in, which is the unfortunate nature of how image acquisition works. But I would caution against shooting too stop down because then you can get in a situation where you have a lot of excess detail that you don't necessarily need. So I do like a shallow depth of field. So that's why I like to shoot at like f4, 2.8 with larger sensor cameras. And that's a really nice spot to be in. With zoom lenses, maybe it's a 2.8 lens. I probably would shoot at f4 just because I want that optimal sharpness. And maybe you could get it at 5.6 or f8. Maybe that's up to you. Maybe that's the point where you draw the line and you say, I have to shoot at 5.6 because that is the absolute sharpest and that's where I need to be. For me, that's not the case. f4 is really, really good in most cases, and 2.8 is really, really good in most cases. But wide open is not the case. I do not like wide open because you just get other lens artifacts that you cannot fix, and I don't think make it look as nice. I also don't recommend shooting with a UV filter on. UV filters get scratched, they get smudged, and they're extra glass in front of the lens that wasn't meant to be there that you're now adding for some kind of protection. You can leave it on when you're storing your lens in your camera bag or just traveling around. But if you're shooting professional work, I would highly recommend taking your UV filter off. Same thing goes with ND filters. Only use them when you absolutely have to. There are cases where you have to use them, and that's the case. And I definitely use them instead of using your shutter speed or something else like that, because that's an absolute no-no in my book. You want the motion blur. So yes, you'll have to use an ND filter. But all that's to say is that you want that optimal image quality, especially for professional work. So if you're thinking about doing something, I'm going to do it stylistically, save it for post-production. It's not a good idea. It's just going to cause too many problems. It puts you at too much risk, right? You never know exactly what someone's going to ask you to do to footage or images later on. They might say, I thought I liked that style from your other shoots, but actually for this, it doesn't really fit. We don't want it. Can you fix it? And you're going to have to say, nope, I can't. We'll have to do a reshoot. And that's not fun. You don't want to be in that situation. So just keep that in mind next time you're planning a shoot or you're going out and doing anything. Yes, I know people love to shoot wide open, but please, if it's professional work, just don't.